In LA tongue.
Yeah.
In LA tongue.
Anamulo.
In a back about everybody.
No, okay, no, Lagos.
Okay, no, Lagos. Okay.
Yeah.
He be no damn. It was a move.
My Lagos.
That's wonderful. In the hair, BK. Yeah, BK Dave. Yeah, BK Dave.
Yeah, sorry. Kai, no.
I know one.
Yeah, all right.
I glad my come go as Professor Siri McDougall.
It's okay.
Then I am my oh, the women. And the men were fine. It may record. Then Bedi Huanya, I play for the other audience.
Oh, okay. It's not a live program, right?
No, all live.
All live. Okay.
All live.
Okay.
All right. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so good to see you all. It's been a while since I saw Dr. Paul Easterling. Welcome back to Global Dialogue. Professor Siri McDougall. Good to see you. How is it over there in California?
Very good. Morning time.
Wonderful. And we have a wonderful guest here, Mr. Phillips, Mazi Phillips Akwari, who is a professional photographer, historian, I might add. And we're going to be talking about the importance of documenting our history. Now, I do hear some background noise. I'm not sure. Is it from you, Mr. Phillips Akwari?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't mind, Mr. Phillips Akwari, where are you tuning in from? Where are you right now?
I am in Lagos, Nigeria.
All right. But I see you are wearing something that I'm familiar with. You're wearing a hat, and you are dressed apart. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're wearing and the culture it comes from?
Yeah, what I'm wearing, my hat is, we call it Ishiago, Okuago rather, okay, which is tiger hat or leopard hat. Rather, I go in Igbo, in Abriba dialect, it's usually leopard instead of the tiger because we don't have tigers in Africa. We have leopard mostly in this part. We had leopard in this part of the world. So our ago, which actually translates to tiger, is leopard here in this sense. So this is our traditional hat. You know, it's what the Abriba man is known for, and some part of Igbo land that are mostly in Abia State. So it's part of the Igbo attire. Yeah. And yes. Then the dress I'm putting on is one of our native wears that has its origin from the Niger Delta, which was actually one of those wears that was gotten from the Portuguese sailors in the olden days. So it has its own history from Portuguese military or Portuguese sailors. So it's been long brought into our culture, you know, because most Abriba people were seafarers in the olden days. So they had early interaction with the Portuguese, who were mostly the traders. Before the coming of the colonialists, they were the Portuguese who were mostly merchants in the coastal part of West Africa. So the Abriba people saw them early enough and, you know, adopted these their ways as part of their cultural ways.
Mr. Phillips, if Akwari,
yeah.
If I was to ask you to describe yourself and the work you do,
just can you give me a minute, please?
Of course,
just a second.
That's fine. I'm going to. In the meantime, let me go to Professor Siri McDougall. Professor Cyril McDougall, we said the topic today is documenting our history and culture. What came to your mind when you saw that topic? What did you think about?
The first thing that I thought about was the restoration of memory, restoring memory. There's something called the African History Project that comes out of ASCAC, Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, and a part of their mission of the African History Project is to restore memory for the purpose of securing our identity, making sure that African people's identity is based on more than geography and citizenship, and that it's based on the knowledge of the historical patterns of culture, patterns of belief, thinking, and feeling that we come from.
So when you say restoring memory, it suggests that there is something missing that you need to restore, or there's something broken or damaged that needs to be repaired. So Dr. Easterling, would you agree with Professor McDougall that there is something that needs to be restored? If so, what is that?
Definitely, there's something needs to be restored, and a collective consciousness through history, through understanding history, is what I would argue needs to be restored. Particularly in this day and age, where it seems like memory is forever fleeting.
Back to you, Professor McDougall. Was that memory again damaged? How was it damaged? Or was it removed? If so, how was it removed? Because again, you are insinuating that it needs to be restored.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, I think that there's a few different levels. One is just the importance of constantly going back to the source. You know, there's a concept called Sankofa. It comes out of the Akan culture, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's been a tragedy, but there's always some need for restoring or going back to the source to remind oneself the trajectory, the mission and purpose that they have, the heritage that they carry with them. And then in other cases, it's because there's been some direct intrusion, like miseducation, institutional exclusion, systematic exclusion of African people's heritage from the curriculum that we get. So, there's the day-to-day aspect of that disconnect that happens, and then there's the institutional level of it, and it doesn't mean that everybody has been cut off from their history or anything like that, but this is just something that's a part of the human experience. We constantly need to have a renaissance, so to speak.
Well, let's go back to Mr. Phillips Akwari, who is in Africa, in Lagos, Nigeria. Mr. Phillips, I was going to have you describe the work that you do in your own words. If you were to describe the work that you do in 3 words, what would those words be? Just 3 words that describe what you do. And then after you've done that, tell us a little bit more about your work in documenting history and culture in Africa.
Okay, I use the word storytelling. I use documentary, and I see myself as someone who picks up stories. Maybe I have used 2 words already. I'm trying to find out the last one, but then what I do is learning about the culture of our people, and then not just write about it, but document them in photos, in visuals, not just photos, not just still, in photos and videos. Over the years, I have seen that what we do had never passed, had never gone beyond our communities. African stories are very rich, and a lot are not known outside of Africa. And people tend to feel outside of Africa. People tend not to be sure of what to expect from us. When we are talking about Africa, we needed to bring up stories that even our own people, for instance, I live in Lagos, and I am from Abriba in southeastern Nigeria. And most people who live in Lagos, which is so many kilometers away from Abriba, don't even tend to know what the Abriba stories are. So what I do is to be able to bring up stories that will educate the people, So I'm not just documenting Abriba alone. I'm documenting African stories. So my Abriba is actually my first Africa. I am from Abriba. So whenever I'm talking about Africa, I have to start from Abriba, my root, where I come from. And fortunately for us, we have a very rich and deep culture that, portrays the thoughts and the ways African people live. Abriba is such an organized community that has the ways they do things, and just like a whole lot of other African communities. Abriba is so organized, so orderly. There is a way of doing every single thing. There is a way to conduct burials. There is a way to conduct marriages. There is a way to even search for a wife. There is a way to do everything. There is a way to negotiate, make peace with for people. There is a way to organize community work. There is a way to organize everything. So everybody is such an organized and orderly society, community that everything about it is well known. But now these things are not documented. The way that people do their things are never documented. You will never see a photo that will show you what it looks like to be in Abriba or to come from Abriba. And this is not just an Abriba affair. I mean, it cuts across a whole lot of African, communities. We don't have anything. We barely have things to show. So I felt, after having a discussion with, that was in 2004 and 2005, I lived with a professor in Ibadan where I was running for my master's program. And so he happened to come from Abriba too. So he was telling me a lot of stories, and these stories were creating imageries, in my mind. And some of the things initially were not, I wasn't able to comprehend what he was saying, because a lot of them had vanished from, from here. People don't practice some of them again. And some of the things he was saying, because he was much an elderly man of, like right now he's about 87 years. And so when he was telling those stories, I'm just in my 40s, and I couldn't comprehend a whole lot of those things. But in my mind, I was creating different kind of images. I was telling myself that if I start now to take pictures and videos of the things that happens now, tomorrow people will be able to have something to see. So I won't be telling, stories like the way that Prof was telling me, and, it was not making a lot of sense. So if I have things that I'm able to trap now, and tomorrow people come up and they pick it up and they go through it, they will be able to have very good idea of what it used to be like. So after a year or two, I told Prof I want to travel to study photography, so I'll be able to tell the Abriba stories. That's the way I put it to him. And he was so excited about it. And I left the country. I went to India to study photography, and on returning, I started this project. And so now he has seen the book and he's so excited more about it. And because now we have something to show the next generation what Aruba used to be like, because a whole lot of things are going next in African culture is undergoing a whole lot of, I wouldn't just say reforms. Yes, reforms part of it, but a whole lot of things are going extinct normally because people are changing the way they live. People are changing their beliefs and all that. So a whole lot of things are disappearing. So, but we have things that we are going to show in 50 years time, in 100 years time, people should be able to pick up a copy of our book and see what it used to be like, to come from Aruba. Because I know by then a whole lot of things would have disappeared because so many had already gone away, So that's actually what we're thinking about Africa. So it's not just about Aruba alone because the work I do cut across, I travel to different destinations across Nigeria and even in West Africa. Yes, I've not gone to other parts of Africa, but at least I've been able to shoot in other African countries like Benin Republic. So this is what we are doing right now, being able to record, being able to document, being able to ensure that visually, when you say something that one could think in pictures, not in words, because that's the issues we've had. Like when Prof mentioned to me, there's a word he mentioned to me that day, those days we were discussing, he mentioned something, it's an artifact. And that was my first time ever of hearing the word Nkwa. It's an Aruba word that means artifact. But I never heard about it before, and I never had an imagery to show it in my mind. But now I've been able to take pictures of Nkwa, of the Aruba people, and so I should be able to showcase something and then tell the story of what it means, to the people. So that's what we've been able to do over these years. The work we started in 2013 and we completed it in 2020 or 2021. We had the book. Thank you.
That's wonderful. I'll come back to you to tell us a little bit about what, spell it for us and describe what it's used for. Also, I'd like you to maybe tell us in words how the Aruba people conduct marriages, or how you go about finding a mate, and because that's something that you mentioned. I should talk about documenting history and culture. In the meantime, let me go to Dr. Paul Easterling. You've heard him share a few things about his work. What comes to your mind? Do you have any reactions as to the things that he is doing, and how does that perhaps relate to us over here who live in the U.S.?
Just excuse me just a second. Well, the importance of memory and developing memory cannot be understated. And that goes for on both sides of the of the Atlantic, of the Great River. So we are missing a lot over here in the States when it comes to issues of memory, but there is still a lot of connecting tissue between what's going on the continent and what's going on here in the States or here in the diaspora, because I want to include the Caribbean and South America as well. So there's a lot there to build upon. That's one of the best ways I can say. It's a lot there to build upon on both sides, and then as well as we work to bring it together, is a lot there, and that's important. There's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for growth, so we can grow collectively, right? Collectively as a people, and as we grow collectively, we grow together. So there's a lot there. What he was talking about, definitely.
I'll bring you in, Dr. McDougall, here shortly, but let me add that one thing I have found, having lived in the U.S. for over 20 years, is the lack of an African American community, what people may say Black community. I mean, there are African Americans, Africans throughout the United States, and sometimes they live together in a particular zip code, and sometimes they don't. They're spread across the city. But I haven't really seen an effective community. I mean, you see a resemblance of a community through churches or through maybe mosques. People coalesce around religion. I haven't seen a community that's really vibrant based on their Africanness, so to speak. And I think some of the things that Mr. Phillips Akwari is talking about could be used to teach folks in the diaspora and leverage to build strong African American communities, African in the diaspora community, and so on and so forth. We can learn things about burial rights. How do Africans conduct burial? How do Africans conduct marriages? How do we go about naming ceremonies and things of that sort? There are various rites of passages. We can capture some of those things and begin to use them here to create vibrant communities that will outlive ourselves, and our children can continue to be part of. I mean, that would be one of my humble submissions. Dr. McDougall, go ahead and jump in, please.
Yes, I think that while I was listening to Mr. Akwari, I thought that it was really good to see the emphasis on the visual culture, because there's so much, like he said, that there's the conventional approach of just focusing on text, but the visual culture just kind of, it gives us a point to discuss a place to discuss the meaning that the images carry with them, and that go beyond and can touch people in a way that that conventional text can't. And I just wanted to say that I think that he's building the living history of our people through his work, and I think that I think it's important to look, when you look across and you say, okay, well, there's a lack of community here, or lack of culture. I think we have to be careful, because when you want to give someone something, or you want to add and help build, I don't think it's not always the best. I would just humbly submit that to say that they have no culture. I mean, if you look at you go to New Orleans and look at the funeral rituals there, they second line, and they second line in the streets. It's a funeral that's more of a celebration. So you kind of recognize what they have, and you say, I want to teach you also other cultures that will enhance your understanding of the African world. But I think you can undermine that if you suggest that they don't have something where they are.
Yeah, to piggyback on Dr. McDougall's point, I agree wholeheartedly with what he's saying, is that there are dynamic elements of culture that are there. It might not look exactly like it might look on the continent. It might look a little dirty. It might look a little dusty. It might look a little odd, because we've had to rebuild, right? Rebuild with broken pieces and put ourselves back together. So it's not going to look exactly the way it's going to look on the continent. But since these are African people working to reaffirm their humanity, it is just as relevant and just as culturally important as anything you might see on the continent. It's just a way you have to kind of step back and kind of release your own preconceived notions and look at what's there.
That's well said. Very well said. Let's go back to Mr. Akwari. What is, do you mind sharing with us one of the most fascinating Abreba culture that you have documented? After that, then maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how do Abreba people find a mate, and it would be nice to sort of hear that, because again, you are capturing all these things and documenting them. We'll love to be able to hear that. Just so you know, you need to unmute yourself. Unmute.
I'm sorry. Okay. I wouldn't be able to just pick up one to say that this is the most fascinating Abreba culture, even though a lot of people may have their own opinions on that. But based on the work I have done, I was able to pick up Abreba, the ways of the stages of an Abreba man. Actually, that's the way the book started, the stages of an Abreba man. And it started with different rites of passage, okay? Like the Ibanono, which is actually the first rite of passage for an Abreba man, which is something that is a bird hunting, actually. No, it's bird. So okay, now let me start with this statement, because usually it's good to start up something like this. The Abreba culture and most African cultures were shaped by slave trade. So everyone wants to prove that either you'll be able to defend yourself, or be able to go out for for other men. So there's something about bravery that you should be able to show. So for an Abreba man, the first thing that you should be able to showcase at the tender ages of 6 or 5, thereabout, being able to hunt down a bird. So it shows something like the Abreba blood is running in you. You're a brave boy. You're born brave. So so that's how we started the story. So after that stage, the next stage of an Abreba man is something similar to, okay, you want to be able to defend your community. So you want to showcase, you want to tell the people that, hey, I want to form an age grade. An age grade is a kind of a group of young people who were born at the same time of their lives. And so the defense of the community lies on the Abreba man's ability to form up age grades that defends the territorial borders of the community. So forming an age grade is on its own. So you can see how the slave hunting has been able to define the way this Abreba culture has been formed. So people are now forming age grades to counter any external force that will attack their community. So after that, then we had the Uchoba, a kind of a group of young guys at a stage. They will be able to assign, okay, it seems like they apply to the community to say, hey, we want to defend the community. We have grown up as men to defend the community, and the community gives them the first assignment. Say, okay, if you insist that you have grown up to this stage of being able to defend your community, the first assignment is to go and guard the community yamban, because the community yambans are usually outside of the community, in the bush. So the young men are given those tasks. So they go there, defend the community. So on the arrival, when they come back to the community now recognize them as an age grade, and then they will celebrate. So at these different stages, they will be defending the community for a very long time, until when they celebrate the Imauche, which is retirement. So at that stage, they have retired from active community services. So that's the stage. So I consider the Imauche as a beautiful celebration for me, because it's a celebration of survival, it's a celebration of life. It's a celebration that
hey, you have survived all the different challenges that comes to you as a man, and you are still standing. That's usually at the age of 60s in Aboma, 60, 65, so you celebrate that. So I love that. I may call it as the high point of my documentary, even though it's a personal celebration, unlike the rest that are done in the community, as some of them as a carnival and all that. But this one, retirement, shows that one has survived all the vicissitudes of life and all the issues and challenges that comes with life, and you're still standing. So it's, for me, it's the high point of it.
There is another celebration called iguana.
Yeah.
I think that happens before Imuche.
Yeah.
Could you describe that one?
Yeah, I deliberately skipped it because it has a whole lot on its own. Iguana is a kind of carnival, it's a very elaborate carnival where people, who have been defending the community over the years, actually starts with people who have been defending the community over the years at this middle part of their lives, something usually between 40 to 50 years. Now, these people, they are now coming into the town, after having lived in the bush or defending the territories of the community for many years. Of course, it's done in rotation anyway, with different age grades defending the community. But this particular age grade are celebrating because they have defended the community for a certain time. And then the community now sees it like, and they have survived. So when they are coming out, their wives, their family members go to welcome them from the bush, okay, at where they consider the border between the living and the dead, right? So when they now move into the town, the community brings food to them there, brings wares. Of course, they are dressed in royal attire to show that what they have done is bravery. So they are welcome back. So they are given, so someone carries mirror for them when they are dressed in that regal attire. Someone carries mirror, so they will be viewing themselves and see how good they are looking. Someone is beating the drum, the ogele, and another person is ringing the bell at Batang, to announce the arrival of this hero. Okay, so it's a kind of heroic welcome to the people. So when they are now moving in a convoy into the town, everyone comes to view them, everyone comes to appreciate them. People come to dance for them, and the community set up different things in a way to appreciate them and welcome them back to the community. It's a celebration of survival at that stage, in the sense, but their job doesn't stop there. After that stage, they continue to still go back, routinely to monitor the other age grades who are now defending the community. So it's a very elaborate kind of celebration that comes in. It's a carnival. It's a carnival like no other. Because when you see the setup, you will say that it's original, nothing is acted. That's actually the beauty of the work we have done. And the Aboma culture is not, maybe sometimes look at it like the carnivals that are celebrated in the Caribbean, but you'll find out that these things are real costumes. They are not stage managed. They are real things, so no one is acting up anything, and it's just the way the people live their lives that you are seeing. So that's it with the Iguana. After some days, the family of the celebrant, especially the wife, buy up beautiful things to make him happy, buy up clothes, wares, and stuff, just to appreciate him. And of course, not just the wife alone, the wife and their family members goes to buy him stuff. And of course, every other member of the public who the person must have affected in a positive way will still come and celebrate with him. So him or her, yeah, because in this state, it used to be him. So it used to be him, but these days the women folk have been added to the celebration. The women folk never go to defend the territorial borders of the community, but in the celebration, they are now part of it. Yeah, just it's all inclusive something. Yeah.
What jumps out to me as you narrated these examples of the Abraba culture is heroism,
Yeah,
and community and sacrifice.
exactly.
It's about people giving of themselves, of their time,
Exactly.
and their resources.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the community. It's always community first.
Exactly.
And that was why, again, when I come back to the US African American community here, of course, there are some cultures here that I grew up in. I lived in Louisiana for 10 years. Of course, there's some beautiful culture there, but I would love to be able to see that level of communal engagement with our folks. And by the way, this is not just happening in the diaspora. Truth be told, even Africans themselves are losing their communal spirit. Thank goodness we still have people who are celebrating. They are one of the few Africans who are still engaged. So truth be told, there are many Africans, as he said earlier, some of these things are going extinct. But the point I'm trying to drive at is these activities are designed to support the community so that you always live your life through others. You always see your existence through others.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
the honor is bestowed on you based on what you have done for the community, not based on what, even those who are rich are recognized for being rich when they have shared their wealth with the community.
Exactly.
So that is really where I'm heading at. Now, Professor McDougall, I know you are a prolific researcher and writer. You've done Black men studies. I want to come back to you and maybe hear your thoughts on this, because I would love to be able to see a community, an African community, where if I come to California, I don't need to worry. I know people there are going to take care of me. And likewise, if a brother or sister comes over to where I live, they know, they have someone who can take care of them here. For me, that is the level of communal engagement that I'm used to, and I want to see for our people. If Dr. Paul Easterling doesn't have to come here and ever worry about staying in a hotel. I mean, it sounds, yes, we have hotels. Of course, if he wants to, that's fine. But that is the level of brotherhood that all Ababa people have. Like if an Ababa man comes into Nebraska, there is no way I am obligated to take care of them.
Exactly.
Like even if I don't know them. Once they say, oh, there's an Ababa guy called Carl or Obu Lincoln. Boy, your phone. That's it. It's a done deal. I'll make sure, that is what I'm hoping we can create for the African family. Now, is it a pipe dream, Dr. Easterling?
I think that some of what you're describing does exist, but it exists on a much smaller level. Because when you're talking, what comes to mind is if I go to a person's house, I'm guaranteed a drink of water and maybe a hot plate, right? We still have that in our culture, and it might not be as widespread as what is being described by Mr. Phillip, but I think that still exists on a smaller scale, maybe from family to family, because for me, if you come to my house, I have to offer you something, right? I have to offer you a place to sit, something to drink, food, for whatever journey that you're on. We do still have that. It's just on a smaller scale. And I agree that, that's something that needs to grow, that something that needs to be nurtured. Um, but despite the difficulties of living in the 21st century world, is something we can still create and grow. But I would argue that something like that still does exist on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. Dr. McDougall, you do research on Black men studies. How can we capitalize on what we already have in the US and sort of grow that community by leveraging our history and our culture? How can we grow that? It exists, yes. How can we grow it and make it more pervasive?
I think, and I mean, I'm going to go back to the same point. I think that we have to recognize what we have first. If we start, I think there's a mistake we can make in the process of getting to where we want to be, and that's assuming that we're starting from zero. You can't help the people get to point B if you're telling them that they're starting from nothing. You want to build on what they have and where they are, and then add to it and have them build from their own cultural base. But if you take the approach that because you are not aware of what they have and what they're starting with, then you will alienate that population, So I think that's what you have to do. And a part of that is I think maybe building on the approach that Mr. Akwari is doing and documenting that culture and documenting that history in ways that will complement what's missing from a lot of the standard school curriculum, and I think that's a place to start from.
One of the cultures that I've come to enjoy, the African American cultures I've come to enjoy, is the Kwanzaa, right? I think is really beautiful culture that, again, it's all about unity and communalism. I think that would be a good place for us to start as well, right? That would be something we can recognize and build on. But I think leveraging culture like that, and then looking at other aspects such as the Juneteenth, other historical elements here in the diaspora, and use them as marking points, things that will bring people together will be quite powerful. And then within all that stuff, it will be interesting. For me, I think it will be interesting to look at how people go through life. So, Mr. Akwari really put it beautifully. He's been able to document the Aboma life cycle, right? You start as a young person, you go out and you kill a bird. I did it myself, right? As the first, you did it as a pre-teenager, right? You do that, and then at some point, guys are there fun. And then you go in, and then you form an age group, and your age group becomes your tight-knit group. But then you're operating within a larger community, and then you go from there. It'll be interesting to see that as well in the diaspora, so that not only do we have these cultures that we celebrate, we also have like a life cycle, so to speak. I'm just wondering, how to sort of go about implementing such a thing. How to welcome folks or introduce things like that. And it doesn't have to be from Aboma, but it could be from other cultures, or it could be something that's already happening here in the US, right? That one could use and say, okay, look, here are certain things we're already doing in the US. Can we make it more pervasive? Go ahead, please, Dr. McDougall.
Yeah, I think. Have you ever heard of something called the Brothers of Fujima?
Yes.
Brothers of Fujima.
I've heard.
You've heard. Yeah. So I mean, the beauty of what the research of scholars, thinkers like like Mr. Akwari is given the world is the ability to have some window into practices that they're not familiar with, and to blend them with the practices that young people in this space need, to be prepared, to be confident in who they are, and their history and their culture, etc., and borrow from them, and build on their built rites of passage here. So the Brothers of Fujima is an example of how people are already making these strides or building. It's just that we need to expand on it, because a lot of times people are doing these things in isolation, and then people don't know about them because who's going to tell you? CNN? Are you going to learn about their efforts from social media? And you can't, if you don't hear from the 24-hour news cycle, then that means that they don't exist. And that's a part of that mindset is a part of what we have to challenge. Our people are at work building and creating culture every day. And we have to acknowledge what they're doing and where they are if we're to build on it.
That is very powerful, what you just said. And I think what needs to happen is we need to really come to a place where we love our culture so much that we seek them out. We find them. We begin to ask questions: who is doing what, and how can we engage? There is a young boy that I mentor here who goes to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I met the young boy through the mom and the dad through his parents. But I already, of course, he's my mentee, and he's not African American, though dad is African American, mom is from the Caribbean. But I've come to actually like the boy even more because of the way in which the mom speak about him. When I'm on the phone with the mom, she would tell me stories about the boy, how, whether it's how cute or how quirky, how different, how nice and how special and whatever it is. And just listening to those stories and hearing the mom appreciate this young boy so much, so lovingly and tenderly, it's make me want to even do more for the boy. And what I learned about from that is that when we embrace our own, sometimes we wait for other people, like you said, CNN is not going to publicize this, right? We need to be the people to promote our own culture and not just promote it to others. Oftentimes we try to leapfrog and say, people don't know about African culture, let's share with the world. No, let's start with other Africans first who would adopt the culture and practice them. Let's love about our culture. Let's imbibe those ideas and practice them. And then people may become curious and say, okay, what are these guys doing? We want to learn that. So I think one thing I'm learning from this, and I'm going to walk away from this chat, is to go back and ask the question, who is doing what? At least in the US. In Africa, the same thing. What has survived, right? And let's begin to take account and capture those things and document those things, so to speak, and then see how we can incorporate them in our various communities. I'm going to go around and just have everyone say their last words, and then we're going to go ahead and close out. Mr. Akwari, please, your final words as we close. You are on mute. Unmute yourself. Okay, while you unmute yourself, let's go to Dr. Paul Easterling. Go ahead. Your final thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot that we've talked about, and there's a lot to build on within our culture on both sides of the Atlantic. And I would like to say that it's important that as we look towards building communities, that we don't forsake those things that might seem problematic. There's ways to turn things around. Like for instance, street gangs have a sense of community. They have a strong sense of community, and there's ways to build upon what they're doing in more positive and constructive, in a positive and constructive manner. It's just how we approach them or how we embrace them, because they're still a part of us despite the negativity they might bring. So let's, as we think about these things, um, not throw out the baby with the bathwater, as the expression goes, and look to build with whatever we have in our hand, as we work together.
Thank you. Mr. Akwari.
Yeah, I think it's our duty to tell our stories, not just to others, but to ourselves, to our children, to the next people, your neighbors, and the people that you meet on the way. I found out that if we don't tell our stories, nobody will tell them for us. It's not necessarily about going out to say this is the stories, but something needs to be known about us. I just found out that ever since I started this project on Abriba, the exhibitions and the book, that it has brought up more things for people to know and to share about us. Those things that we do in the community are getting known by outsiders too. So I think we need to share our values. We need to share those things that we cherish and appreciate to others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Professor McDougall.
I would say I hope that people will look at and read Mr. Akwari's work, and also to follow the methodology that he's used, and to start with our own families first. Nobody is keeping track, but I think that it's safe to assume that there are practices, parts of our visual culture that people who are 90 and 80 years old right now are the last carriers of, and I think it's important for us to use, to document our culture, like he said, and preserve our memory for the next generation.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate you always. And I hope those who are listening can go home and start with your family, start with yourselves, start documenting, start telling your own family stories. And with that, we're going to be able to build a stronger community. We're going to sign off now and go to our Marvel program, My African Roots Verified by Experience and Love. Our own very brother here, Dr. Paul Easterling, is going to be leading a workshop there on African religions, philosophy, and values. Until then, Ubuntu.
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 Ubuntu.